So what we wanted to do was to give a real reflection of how the media in this country reflects Islam and Muslims and reports on Islam and Muslims. Because our purpose as a Centre for Media Monitoring is to try and ensure that, or try and work towards having responsible reporting as much as is reasonably possible. 60% of all the articles we had were negative about Muslims in some way, and that was an underestimate because of the methodology that we used.
I have discovered that to be a Muslim woman, to be outspoken and to be left-wing is to be subject to this barrage of racism and hate. It's to be treated by some as if I were an enemy of the country that I was born in, as if I don't belong. Muslims, wherever we are, were portrayed as a security threat in need of discipline and suppression.
The reality was that right-wing newspapers were significantly worse than left-leaning newspapers. And certain newspapers and magazines were the worst. For example, the Spectator magazine was particularly awful when it came to Muslims. Very antagonistic, we saw, came top of the antagonistic list. It was very, very biased against Muslims, and it was one of the ones which misrepresented Muslims the most in the articles which were done. But now nobody can say the evidence does not exist. The evidence does exist. This report shows it, and it demonstrates both qualitatively through examples and quantitatively through numbers the scale of Islamophobia, and gives case after case to demonstrate the point that we're making. What happened is, even before the report came out, some of these news outlets tried to attack us before it came out, and attack me personally. They have this idea that if they're able to attack us beforehand, that might undermine what we're doing.
How many female imams are there? How many do we have in Britain? You don't know, that's fine if you don't know, but do we have female imams in this country? What is the picture for women leading prayer in Britain in Muslim communities? Do we have female imams? It's just quite striking that you can't sort of answer that question.
And for me, the premise of that interview was supposed to be really warm and inclusive and celebrating my achievement. Instead, it stereotyped me, who was I really? Was that a puppet? Was I really going to be allowed to lead by the men? When in fact it was a majority of men that voted me in. And throughout the course of my election, I had other parts of the press that said, well, she's not going to be, the men aren't going to let her lead. She's just a nice sounding voice, a nice face, but Muslim women can't lead. And I think it fed all of this, at least 10, 20 years of misrepresentation, particularly of Muslim women, being elected the leader of the largest and most diverse Muslim umbrella organization, and people just couldn't handle it. And the press couldn't really come to terms with Muslims, majority men, electing this young female to lead this national umbrella organization.